Hi, I'm Judy and welcome to my channel. Before we get started, if you wouldn't mind hitting that subscribe button and that little notification bell, I'd really appreciate it. And when I'm done talking today, if you like what you heard or it was at least interesting to you, why don't you go ahead and hit the like button for me too. Today I'm going to talk about reincarnation. More to answer questions that usually come up. Of course, the big question is why do we what's the point of reincarnation? And I mean, if you've watched some of my other videos already, which I hope you have watched them in order, because they build on each other. The point of reincarnation is simply to bring us back to this world to learn lessons we have not yet learned, to experience things we have not yet experienced. Because we can't know what love is until we know what it's not. And we can't understand or have empathy or compassion. I guess the best word really is understanding of any situation if we have not actually lived it. You know, you can try to reach out and empathize with somebody if a situation is somewhat familiar to you, but unless you've actually been in that position, there's really absolutely no way for you to completely understand what somebody is going through. And so reincarnation is about giving us that opportunity as soul to grow, to have more understanding, to be more compassionate, and eventually to learn how to love even through trials and tribulations of life. And eventually, as I might have said many times, to eventually become love. That's a really long time down the road. So I guess the main thing with each of our lives is that we attempt to learn something that will move us forward. So reincarnation offers that ability. And when do we reincarnate? How fast we reincarnate? You know, that's really up to what contemplations have had to go on in between lives to decide, you know, what you actually did learn. Did you hit that added karma? Were you able to fulfill the destiny that you went into that life for? If not, you probably need to figure out a way of getting yourself into a situation where maybe that opportunity will come up. So there's a lot of consideration, there's a lot of planning. Soul works with other souls many, many times, in fact, probably a lot of the time, to help them while they're helping you. And so it's really a very loving system. We reincarnate until we don't need to anymore. That part of it to me hasn't really been clear. All I know is that we are supposed to become love. I don't know, I know kind of what gets us there. I haven't yet found out what happens after we become love. I have this idea that it just starts all over again somehow or another, you know, but I'm just making that up. I don't know. So what I do know is that we will all come back to this earth many, 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 many times, thousands and thousands of times. And we all have the need to know how to be a little bit better people, a little bit kinder, a little bit nicer, a little bit more empathetic, not just with other people, but even to ourselves. Because sometimes that's the hardest part, is being kind to yourself. And the longer you are in and out of different lives, the easier it is to become kinder to yourself. There's just so much baggage, isn't there? But the baggage is there for us to learn as well. So it's not bad. One thing some people ask is, well, what about dogs and cats and, you know, birds and fish? Do they have souls? And if they do they reincarnate also? I can honestly tell you that I do believe they have souls. if you've ever owned an animal, especially somebody like a dog or a cat, you know, something like that, they sure don't seem to be just who they are. They do have personalities that, you know, hint at soul. I don't know that for certain. That isn't something that I've ever actually learned. I've never gotten that information. Although I must say, and this is going to bleed into the idea of dreams and what they mean. Maybe I'll do that one next. But I do remember I had a dog named Cato. And Cato died in, I want to say February of 2015. And he was a great dog. He was just a wonderful dog. And I was very sad when he died. He had a heart condition, and eventually he had to put down. He couldn't do anything without fainting, and you know, it was just not, he wasn't having fun anymore. I think had we not chosen to put him down that day, he probably would have died sometime in the next 48 hours anyway. It was very sad. I missed him a lot. I remember we got his ashes. They gave us this beautiful box, you know, with his ashes inside, and I just hugged it and cried. Still makes me a little sad. How much you can love a dog, you know, how much they can love you. I have 2 other dogs too, so I'm still loving them. I still love Cato. I'll always love Cato. I've had cats I've loved a lot. They're gone too. And even though I know they're okay, it's still sad. So about maybe 2 or 3 months after Cato was gone, I had a dream that seemed real. You know those type that they don't seem like a dream, they seem really real? Well, this was one of those. And I was standing in the bathroom. I think I was brushing my teeth or something. And I just, for whatever reason, I must have heard something or seen something, whatever. I looked over into the hallway and I saw Cato, and he was coming toward me. He was walking toward me out of kind of a mist, almost like clouds were in the hallway, and he was coming through over to me. And I bent over and I pet him. I said, "You're back. You weren't gone. You're back." And I kissed him on the head. I could feel his head. I could feel the fur. I could see his eyes. And he looked at me like, you know, I'm still here. And then I woke up. And he wasn't there. But he was. I sort of knew he was, you know, he was still hanging around. I don't know if animals reincarnate, if they have souls. I kind of think like every living thing probably has some kind of soul, right? I don't know for sure. That's something I really don't know much about. I'll have to find out about that. I suppose I'll find out when it's necessary, but so far it hasn't been necessary. But even if they don't reincarnate, I feel like they probably do have souls. And maybe their purpose is simply to bring us joy, to give us unconditional love. Because animals are already unconditional love. They don't have that judgmental thing going on that we do. You know, the animals are absolutely just love, walking around on 4 paws or flying or whatever kind of an animal it is. And especially dogs, right? They seem to have an amazing ability to accept you for who you are and love you completely no matter what. So do animals reincarnate? I honestly don't know. I don't know. Do they have souls? I am very sure they do. And again, their purpose would be different than a human purpose, wouldn't it? Because they don't have the restrictions that we have. They don't put the boundaries on our love that we do. They don't have the insecurities that make us judge people and decide they're not as worthy as we are of whatever it is. So the point of reincarnation for us humans, maybe it's so that we can eventually be as good as our dogs. It's a thought. Let me know what you think about this. I'd love to hear your comments. And hopefully you'll hit that like button too. Thanks for listening. And maybe we'll do dreams next. That's a good one. Thanks.